Right, good afternoon all. Welcome to today's webinar hosted by ShopCare. I'm your facilitator, Wes van Deventer, currently the business manager at ShopCare. Our speaker today is none other than the founder and managing director at seedigital and CEO, Bede Cammock-Elliott. Welcome, Bede. Then this webinar, guys, is recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel as well as our website, I would say around about next week. And it also, the other reason for recording it, it helps us to reflect and learn a bit and be able to provide you with better experience in the future. Bede, if we can go on to the next slide, it will be appreciated. All microphones, guys, have been muted, so please use the chat functionality if you want to make any comments or if you want to seek any assistance from my point of view. I'll be monitoring the chat function. If you want to ask any questions to myself or even to Bede, please make use of the questions and answer function, and we will direct all questions or answer all questions towards the end of today's webinar. There will be a few poll questions today, and all the results, live results, are anonymous. So we would really appreciate your engagement and honest answers, because it just helps us, developing in the future and help us to understand our audience a bit better. Then just a quick overview of ShopCare today. If you just press enter for me once, please, Bede, that would be great. So ShopCare, for those who don't know, is a non-for-profit industry association. We basically connect people to people and people to solutions with a main focus on creating safer workplaces sooner. So as you can see, we've got a couple of work streams, but I'm only going to focus on 4 today. And those are basically critical risks. And critical risks are all those risks that can severely harm or cause a fatality within your workplace. And kind of saying that, we have done a really thorough critical risk exposure report that will be available to the public towards the end of July or beginning of August, which is going through the last bit of a sign-off process. On our website, you can find a few hierarchies of controls that we can share freely to everyone. Those are namely driver safety, working at heights, as well as hazardous subs. And then we've also collaborated with the AA Motor Company in New Zealand by developing a pretty comprehensive driver safety guide. You can find that on the AA website as well as on our website. And then in the works, we've got a couple of bow ties that will go public pretty soon, so watch out for that as well. Our other work stream is VAB, mainly, which is violent and aggressive behaviour. These are mostly for customer-facing roles, and that's a pretty growing concern for New Zealand. I think most probably internationally, but definitely New Zealand. And we're currently collaborating with Skills VR regarding a bit of training on a VR virtual reality perspective, and currently doing a couple of trials with a few members of ours. And we've also got another project going on, but I can't say much too about that because that is still pretty much under wrap. And then we're definitely developing a bow tie around VAB that you can use. Then briefly, site markings project. We have been invited by the regulator to conduct a site markings project, and that's coming to a close. I think it's around about October. So watch out for a bit more details around that. And lastly, participative ergonomics, mainly musculoskeletal harm. We really focus on that manual handling piece because that is a major risk for majority of companies as well as ACC. And we'll be focusing on the early notification intervention opportunities as well as injury management. So that's when the injury has actually already occurred. And then lastly, on our website, you will also be able to find an online manual handling training, which is called First Move. If you're in our sector, please make use of that free resource. Then lastly, guys, click one more time for me. We are in a fortunate position that we've got a couple of speakers lined up for the rest of the year. But if you are an aspiring public speaker or you've got some great solutions that you want to share with the wider industry, this is a really great opportunity, to try and give back some of that knowledge that you've built in your silo capacity with the broader wider industry. It's also a great opportunity for learning and developing, networking, and also then testing your presentation skill on a smaller stage before stepping up to that larger platforms. So we do have a couple of speaking slots open for the rest of the year. We are pretty flexible when it comes to dates. let us know. If we don't ask anything from a flash perspective, it can be really, really casual as well. You know, you can just create a couple of slides and have a bit more of an open, informal dialogue. That also works fine. These are some of the key topics that we would like to focus on, but we are open to any other suggestions that you know that you are really doing very, very well. So if you're keen, want to be a speaker, guys, reach out to me, let me know, and we can have a quick chat around that. So before I hand over to Bede, guys, we're going to start off by a quick couple of poll questions, and we would really appreciate your honest feedback on those poll questions. So if you give me 2 seconds, I'm going to quickly launch the first poll. And here we go. All right. Do you have CCTV cameras covering areas of concern from a health and safety perspective? Yes, partially, or no? I will give about another 3 seconds for individuals to answer. 2, 1, and 0. I'll end the poll, and I'm going to share the results quickly. So we've got about a 44% saying yes, 17% partially, and about 39% saying no, they don't. Interesting. Okay, moving on to the next poll. Thank you very much for that, guys. Poll question 2, I'm launching it right now. How often do you or someone else proactively review CCTV footage for potential health safety challenges? Only when an event has occurred, weekly, monthly, quarterly, never. We do not have CCTV cameras. The results are trickling in. Let's give a couple of more seconds, guys. Another 3, 2, 1, and I'll be closing the poll now. I'm sharing the results. No real surprises there. 53% saying only when an event has occurred, 12% saying weekly, 6% saying monthly, none quarterly, 6% saying never, and a good 24% saying we do not have CCTV cameras. You got that, Bede?
Yep, thank you.
Then more questions, guys. We'll make them as quick as possible. And launching third one. How strongly do you agree with the statement, if managers do not know about an unsafe practice occurring, then they are less culpable should a harm event occur? I strongly agree, mildly agree, neutral, slightly agree, or strongly disagree. Okay, we'll give it about another 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and in poll, sharing the results. Strongly agree, about 10%, mildly agree, 10%, 0 for neutral, slightly disagree, and about 80% saying strongly disagree. Interesting, good. And then last one, guys. 1 second, let me just move over to that one. And I'm launching it now. How strongly do you agree with the statement? If our CCTV system records near misses, but we don't receive the recordings, then we can claim to be unaware of them. Strongly agree, mildly agree, neutral, mildly disagree, and strongly disagree. Okay, I'll give it another 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and go. Sharing results as we speak. Say about 5% saying neutral, 5% saying mildly disagree, and a whopping 90% saying strongly disagree, which is pretty good. Pretty good. Got that, Bede?
Yep, thank you.
Sweet. So, guys, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. I just want to take this opportunity in welcoming Bede Cammock-Elliott, the founder and managing director of Seedigital and seeo. Bede has deep levels of experience in leveraging technology, to change management. Bede has also extensive experience in managing as a management consultant in Europe and across Asia Pacific. So, Bede, thank you very much for taking the time and presenting today and sharing some of your knowledge with us and your technology. Appreciate that. I'm going to hand over the floor to you now. Guys, before I do that, I'm just switching off my camera and my mic, but I'll still be there in the background and be able to answer questions and support you guys. Thank you very much. See you later.
Thanks for that. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm delighted to be here. My name is Bede Cammock-Elliott. It's my absolute pleasure to share some insights on health and safety culture and how you can shift it using AI-driven data insights. So I'm just going to quickly start with introducing myself. Then we're going to talk about what is health and safety culture. And doing this webinar is a weird thing for me because normally I'm speaking to a room and I can read the people. I can look at their faces and see whether they're getting what I'm saying or they're bored, senseless, or whatever. So this is, I feel like I'm talking to myself, but hang in there. I'm sure we'll work it out. So then we're going to talk about using CCTV as a tool for assisting health and safety efforts. I want to talk about some of the obligations and pitfalls of CCTV, and I want to share some insights from a sentencing judge in a recent WorkSafe case that I'm familiar with that I think you'll be really interested in what the judge has said. It's not in the public domain yet, but I have permission to say. Then we're going to clarify a few technical terms around AI and what is it, and then talk about how you can weaponize your CCTV to automatically deliver insights into actual behavior. We'll finish with a quick demo of seeo and conclude with questions and answers. So if you have some questions, fire them through to Wes using the Q&A function and we'll deal with those. And any questions I'm unable to answer, I will certainly get back to you. So just say hello to me. So just introduce myself. So I've had a long and varied career, but one of the highlights was working as a management consultant in London in the 1990s for an organisation called Industrial Society International. And I was a culture change person, primarily around customer service. So I worked extensively in risk management and insurance industries, and I did a lot of work in the rail industry right when it was being privatized. So we were taking this public utility, trying to get people focused on customers. As a part of my work there, I became an assessor of the European Business Excellence Model and ended up publishing a book unrelated to culture change, but in the UK and Brazil. It's a long story, but someone wanted the rights to it, so it's in Portuguese as well. Came back to New Zealand where I had various technology and HR-centric roles at Telecom. This was prior to it becoming Spark. And one of my very first projects when I got to Telecom was tell us how the internet will impact how we manage people. So after about 3 months, I was desperate to get out of there and become an internet entrepreneur. So about 4 years later, I became the founder of a company called seedigital. And seedigital, we protect over $5.5 billion worth of assets every night. We replace security guards on industrial sites. And we do anything from cameras to electronic access control, intrusion detection, audio response, all those sorts of things. So for some of New Zealand's most loved and beloved brands, we're particularly strong in food manufacturing and logistics spaces, but we have sites literally from Kaitaia to Bluff. And one of the conversations I was having with one of our food clients one day, I said to him, Brian, what would you like to know about that you're recording right now? And he said, oh, I'd love to know if people wash their hands during our when they enter our red line. Could you do that? And I was like, probably. And that has led to the founding of seeo And seeo, which I'll explain later on, is Latin to know. That's what it means. So that's enough about me. Let's get on with the topic at hand. So what is health and safety culture? So any culture occurs first in language. The reality we create, the way we see the world, starts first in thoughts and words. So if you think about a building, a big shiny building on Queen Street or wherever, just think of a building. It was first a creative thought. It was a thought in the mind of a developer or someone who owned land, and the thought would have gone something like, wouldn't it be nice to stick a cool office block here? Then that is fleshed out with meetings with architects, engineers, quantity surveyors, banks, builders, you name it. And those conversations become plans, and they are codified thoughts and words. Plans are just, in terms of building plans, are codified thoughts and words and calculations by engineers and architects as a result of a conversation. They become concrete. So given money and time, and council sign-off, those plans become a building. So even putting the materials into place, like where the concrete wall goes, where the lobby is, the reception desk, all those things, they first are created in conversation. They're first created in language. So in health and safety culture, it's no different. It's represented in thoughts, words, and behaviour. So starting at the top of an organisation, if I just pick, say, two different thoughts from a managing director. The first thought is health and safety is just another thing we have to comply with. It is important, but ... So that's thought one. Different managing director, different business. Health and safety is the right thing to do. We need to do all we can to facilitate and encourage people to be safe. Our rules and processes are there to protect all of us as much as possible. So it's not going to take a rocket scientist to see that one of those thoughts is way better in terms of setting our expectations around health and safety. And one of those thoughts will deliver a better health and safety outcome. It starts in language. Culture starts in language. You can see with our focus on te reo, increasingly in the media, that we get this. Culture starts in language. So you can see your health and safety culture and what people say, what they do when no one is watching primarily. So I go to many workplaces and they have beautiful, shiny physical pedestrian barriers in their logistics spaces. And I can instantly tell how seriously people take their health and safety by how many people don't use them or take shortcuts. So while the boss is sitting there thinking that the potential of a collision between a forklift or other MHE and a person is solved by spending that 100K on fancy yellow barriers, if it isn't culturally acceptable to use them or culturally unacceptable not to use them, then the problem hasn't been solved. So I'm assuming that you'll all be familiar with the Safety 2.0 term, work as imagined versus work as done. So we all do this. We sit there in offices with whiteboards discussing with very serious faces how work should be done around here. We codify that into procedures, processes, rules, regulations, and some hard controls like fancy yellow barriers. And we sit there in our imagined world of how stuff gets done. But we kid ourselves because that isn't often how work is done. How work is done is actually your health and safety culture. And we all try and codify our culture with rules, process, procedures, and hard controls. That's what we try and do. So how do we go about changing it? Well, let's just say we think that we think that our culture needs changing. So the first thing in my travels, I regularly come across people who say, no, around here, we have amazing near miss reporting. Everyone is really honest. How we work is X, Y, Z, and people, they follow this procedure and blah, blah, blah. So I'm thinking work as imagined at this point. Then I ask the killer question. But how do you know they do. So I'm going to quickly go to the poll question, because inevitably they answer, because I do audits, or my managers tell me. So the question I'm interested in here, how often do you proactively or someone else proactively review CCTV footage for potential health and safety challenges? 53% say only after an event has occurred. Sorry about this. So there's the sense that in my travels, I come along and people say to me, if I don't know, that lowers my culpability. So my view, and what happens is when people, I'm asking them about their health and safety culture, I say, and they're living in the work as imagined world, and they go, oh, adult, I do my audits and that's how I know. My view, and if they end up adopting SEO, they eventually find out that they're utterly deluding themselves. So if we're talking about changing our culture, so we need to start listening to what people say as well as how they act. And then you'll see your health and safety culture. Write down what people say and survey your staff asking how strongly they agree with those statements. See how your managers respond too, then you'll know the change task before you. Engage your management team and how they see health and safety. Is it regarded as a hindrance? And if you're a health and safety person, are you regarded as a pain in the backside? Do you see alligators around every corner? Or are you a strategic person who focuses on what really matters? So I asked a poll question about if you don't know something, how culpable are you? And I'm sort of surprised by the answer. I actually thought it was going to be slightly different than that, but it was a very strong focus on if you don't know, that doesn't mean you're not culpable. So, because I regularly come across this. And I actually had this, I gave a CEO demonstration to the managing director of a large logistics company. He goes, I know this stuff goes on, but I'd never deploy this because then I'd have to do something about it. So I'm pleased that you all agree that we should be gathering information and we should be measuring this stuff. And we should avoid the sorts of things where people say, we shouldn't be gathering the information on this because if we have an issue, it will make it easier for WorkSafe, which is what a person said to me one day. The truth is, whether we know it or not, we're still in the gun. So step one to change is data. So that is listening to what people say, verifying that those are widespread beliefs, audits, observations, near-miss reports, and CCTV viewing if you have it. And I'm surprised that 39% don't, but that may be the sort of business that you're in. It may not be worthy of recording. So that was an interesting poll question. So the key thing about gathering data, however, is that it's onerous and it's nigh on impossible to keep it up. So we start with a great flourish, then it becomes too onerous. So in my view, the best way, other than hearing what people say and talk about health and safety, is cameras, is CCTV. And I would say that because that's what I do, but that's what I, in my experience, have found, because it records what people actually do when no one is watching, which is an accurate, verifiable measure of what your culture is. So I want to spend the rest of the session on how to use CCTV to shift your health and safety culture. So I asked a question about if you record something on CCTV and you don't look at it, are you less culpable? And I want to address this particular topic, and I'm really pleased that with the response to that question, that people understand, because I'm just going to read out a statement which is not what the judge said, but a précis of what the judge said in a recent sentencing in a worksafe prosecution. It was surprising to me, and it's something really material to this discussion. This is not yet public, but I have permission to discuss it here today. So the judge said words to this effect: an organisation's knowledge of behaviours extends beyond what an individual may know. For example, if CCTV footage is recorded, then it is regarded as the organisation already knowing, as the information is available and easily retrievable for review, i.e. it's easy to regularly monitor footage. It's a reasonably practical step for managers to take. Not knowing what has been recorded by way of not reviewing the footage is not a defence which the organisation could utilise. So let that sink in. It means, in effect, if you're recording near misses on your CCTV system, but you're not checking it, and 53% of you said you only do this when you have an event, it is regarded that your organisation does know about these things, just as if you observed it yourself. So all of us go to work to make a difference. We have different levels of passion for this, but I have yet to meet someone who does not want to have an impact in their role. In the health and safety sphere, our outcomes are delivered by people keeping themselves safe, by doing the right thing. And we create procedures and processes and hold toolbox meetings and cajole and kitchens and all those good things. And we produce reports. But if you're anything like me, do you lie awake at night and wonder, how do I know? How do I know what I'm doing is actually changing the world? Well, I'm about to show you one way. I'm about to show you how. So this is within the domain of MHE and pedestrian interaction and stuff you can train a computer to see. It's not in the domain of repeated strain injuries or protection from toxic chemicals or anything like that, and other health and safety activities. So if, so we're focusing on that because it's something that we can train a computer to see. So first, some terms before we get into it. Artificial intelligence. It's a hot term. Everyone talks about this. This is artificial intelligence is the next frontier of battles. Cybersecurity is one of them. Artificial intelligence and the use of it is a massive, massive deal for our future. So artificial intelligence is technology that emulates to some degree human capabilities. Now these might be matching data or identifying trends or recognizing yellow cars or any manner of things. It's a catch-all phrase for what I'm about to show you with SEO. Machine learning is a subset of AI, and that is best described as a computer programmer telling a computer a set of stuff to look out for. So for example, training a camera to detect cars, but only giving it white and yellow cars as examples and saying that's a car, that yellow car is a car, and so's that white one. But if a purple car turns up, a machine learning system won't see it because it's outside of its training. So a machine learning thing's never going to take over the world because it only can regurgitate what it's given. So deep learning, which is again another subset, and deep learning is only 10 years old. The technology is extremely new. Uses what's called a neural network, which is like a black box where that breaks down data into little chunks and simulates pattern recognition that a brain uses to recognize objects in a far more intelligent way. So deep learning is a catch-all term for technology that can see hidden patterns and can recognize objects in a far more intelligent way. So for example, going back to our car example, it will recognize cars of any color. And if you've trained it, but if you've trained it using only yellow and white cars as examples, it will still recognize a purple car. It will still recognize a red car, but it will recognize those at a far lower probability. So it's not as brilliant as the human brain at pattern recognition, but it's a lot better than machine learning. And like I say, it's only 10 years old. So now I'm going to introduce to you seeo. So seeo is Latin to know. That's what it means. The word seeo, it's not actually spelt that in Latin, it's SCIO, but that wasn't an available URL, so we changed it. So seeo is a Latin to know. And what seeo does is it analyzes CCTV footage for events that you should really know about. That's what it does. So, and those seeo events, and I'm going to demonstrate these to you, are artifacts of your health and safety culture. They represent where you're at. So seeo uses deep learning to highlight health and safety issues automatically. So you don't go looking for them, they're just produced for you. So there's none of this waiting for an event, because all of those artifacts are near misses. So they're events waiting to happen, they're precursors to events. I want to address that this is not Big Brother. So there's no identifying characteristics of who the people are. It is just there's a person, and it's basically automating what you do anyway, going and looking at your cameras. So it's not a Big Brother thing. It just automates it. Then seeo gathers statistics, so you can track progress across time. So you can answer the question, are my efforts being rewarded with change? Because seeo will measure it. You'll have fewer events. And that is the most incredibly powerful thing about this platform. And seeo salience is a feature that we're just about to launch. And what that does is it highlights the riskiest events first. So we sat down with some of our customers and went through some of their seeo events. And look, I'll be honest and say, a lot of them are nah, big deal. They're not of great import. They might be a person too close to a forklift, but the forklift's moving away from the person. So they're the sort of thing that they're technical breaches of rules, but they're not of great import. So what seeo salience does is it takes the key risk factors, there's about 5 of them, and mashes them up and uses that to judge the events. So the events at the top of the list are ones that you want to see, if that makes sense. So that is seeo. So how does it work? So if we start at stage 1, this is a hand washing example. Person in forklift, too close to forklift. Person goes inside a shipping container followed by forklift, or the truck driver's not in the safety zone, or a person doesn't wash their hands at all prior to going into an area. So the action is uploaded over the internet to step number 3, which is the seeo platform. And the seeo platform uses lots of technology to analyze that footage and brings out events that you would want to know about and chucks them in the seeo platform websites, which I'm about to show you for your viewing pleasure. And then step 5 is toolbox, kick shins, workshop, discuss, create processes, new rules, change your working environment. Because one of the incredible things about SEO. It's literally seeing with new eyes. You see your workspace with new eyes because you see where interactions are happening. And one of our customers had they had a desk, they had a workstation, and they had a lot of interactions around that with people and forklifts. And they went, let's move that workstation. So they moved it to another place, 15 meters away, and all of a sudden, 25% of those interactions dropped. So with that data and new eyes, and then you carry on back to one where people are doing their thing on a day-to-day basis. So what I'm now going to do is introduce you. I'm actually going to log into SEO quickly, and I'm going to show you. So this is SEO.
Bede, just remember to, when you share your screen, you need to share the SEO screen.
Great, thank you. Bingo. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Great, thanks, Wes. That would have been a bit disastrous, wouldn't it? So this is SEO. So you have recorded cameras. They've been shunted. Those recordings have been shunted off to SEO, and into the SEO platform comes. This is what you would look at on a day-to-day basis, proactively looking. So let's just take our first rule over here. Proper hand washing is the first rule. So, and these are my locations. So hopefully you can see that. So they might be a corridor, or they might be Christchurch branch, loading dock, whatever. They're all your camera locations, and then you can filter by time the shots you want to see. So if I hit filter, and I'll come down here and go, what's this one here? So here's a little washroom. This person doesn't wash, they walk past. Or this person here washes for 10 seconds or less. So that is hand washing as a rule. Forklift proximity is a doozy. Now these are all real events. We haven't put people up to these, and we have permission to use them, but we've anonymized them so you can't tell. So if you look down here on the where my mouse is on the bottom left-hand corner, that sort of thing is really uncool and is not what you'd want to be seeing on your site. Here's another one. And another. Can you see all those, Wes?
Yes, I can.
Yep, cool. So off the back of that, there's statistics. And this is, given this is a demonstration site, not a live site, your statistics will be full. So you would have the number of events per day and the date, and you can export those out to Power BI or any other platform to present them in beautiful pie charts, or manipulate the data and compare the data across time, et cetera, et cetera. So if I come back in here, so I can flag events, save them, I can share them, download them, email them, et cetera, et cetera. So we have features coming where you can annotate on them and say, spoke to Shane, Shane said he won't do it again, or whatever. And again, filter by salience, which is coming as well. Driver safety zone is another rule, and I'm assuming there's people here who have drivers supposed to be in a safety zone. So this rule is the driver is supposed to be in this area, there or thereabouts, in the green box, before this forklift comes across this yellow line here. So if we just watch what's happening, so the forklift goes across the yellow line, there's no person in the driver safety zone. That's an absolute no-no for this site. If I come into this one here, so he approaches the forklift, not allowed, not supposed to be done. This guy here, forklift comes across, he disappears from the scene. He's supposed to be within eye contact of the forklift driver. So again, these are all variations on a truck driver rule where a truck driver is supposed to be in the safety zone, but is not. And you could have these things going on and there not being an actual harm event, but they're all precursors to a harm event. So for a person inside a container followed by a forklift, if we have a look at this, so golden rule, person's not supposed to be inside a shipping container followed by a forklift. So that's that for obvious reasons. There's no way out if something happens. And then the person squeezes out. Again, a near-miss event that you'd be oblivious to if you didn't happen to look at your CCTV footage at that exact time. So that is SEO. This is as simple as that. It is complex, but that is it. So that really that ends my presentation. I'm just going to come back to where are we? Here we go. Can people see that?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So do we have any questions and answers?
Well, before I get into the questions, Bede, I'll just launch the last poll question before we keep kicking off. So please, I really appreciate your answers on this one. I'm just launching the last poll. And there we go. Has this webinar been of value to you and inspired you to do things differently? Yes, I find it of value and I'll do things differently. Yes, great to obtain confirmation of what we do already. Or no, I didn't learn anything new. So Bede, so two questions I've got so far here is, does it have a notification capability of severe risks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can be emailed and say there's stuff for you to, bit like LinkedIn, you've missed 3 notifications. So definitely, yes, you can.
Okay. The next question I've got, Bede, is that I know you mentioned that this is not Big Brother, but looking at some of the video feed, how do an organization overcome that Big Brother theme that arises within the introduction of monitoring?
Yeah, that's it's a very good question. I think it comes down to what you do with the information. And the best, I'm assuming you've got CCTV, right? So you're already, and I'm assuming that you have in your employment agreements and signage around the place saying that you're going to be recording things. So, okay, so let's just assume that. The best way to handle this is what you do is use it as an education tool. So it is really vital that it's not used as a stick. You eventually have to use it as a stick for people who consistently do not fit your health and safety culture. So the best results are sitting people down and going, and I'll tell you a story. One of our customers that didn't have SEO operating, but had our cameras recording, had a incident where a person almost lost their foot. Forklift ran over it. And what they did is they sat the teams down across the country and they said, here's some SEO events, and here's the video of this event where the guy almost lost his foot, and said to their team, what do you think is the difference between these? And what was clear was they said he got hit. That was the only difference. So the key to overcoming the Big Brother thing is you're trying to keep people safe. That's the objective. People need to behave in a certain way to fit your health and safety culture and what you're trying to achieve. And use it as a tool to assist that, not as I'm going to catch people out. So it's how you approach it is the key thing. And it's no different from standing there with a clipboard and observing, or proactively playing back CCTV footage.
So this is pretty much very similar to the question that was just asked, but I'll just ask it in any event because I know the answer should be the same, but you could potentially talk to something that you had in the past. So the question is, what do unionized workforce think of this? From my experience, they are quite adverse to their members being videoed.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming
he's basically mainly talked about unions.
Yeah, so no, it's a good question. So one of our clients had already had cameras in, which didn't have SEO, and then adopted SEO and worked extensively with the union. I think health and safety as a topic is very different to using cameras for security reasons. Security, having them there for security reasons is pejorative. Having them there for health and safety is about saving people's lives in some cases, and saving them from harm. And I think that's different. Now, I can't speak for the unions involved, but my view is it's a conversation worth having, and it is possible to have it because it's about keeping people safe. And the union surely does not want their members hurt through unsafe practice.
Yep, hundreds. Thanks, Bede. Then I've got a question from Bob. Can the system learn when an event is safe, i.e. in the case of a person being too close to a forklift, but they are behind barrier protection?
That is something that we train. So how the process, how this works is we take your footage of your site and we train it for your environment. So that would be we'd call that an edge case. And we'd go, we can see the yellow barrier, ignore. So we can work that stuff out. It won't, this stuff's not that intelligent. People think that it is, and the sort of like the NCI kind of CIA movie stuff thinks that it is. It's not. You actually have to train it for that stuff. It doesn't have autonomous thought. So you can train that stuff out, just like we have trained out static forklifts. So they're low salience events.
Hundreds.
Yep.
Is the processing happening on the edge or on the cloud? If it's the cloud, what's the delay in processing?
It is the cloud. So this is not real time because we take video that has already been recorded, and that's inherently a delay. It depends on the complexity of the scene and the site, but you can have results back within an hour. It's within a shift. If there's huge amounts going on, like there's 6 forklifts and 15 people in the scene, that takes longer because there's a lot more maths to be done. So it is currently in the cloud, it's not on the edge.
Thank you. And another question is, I think it's important to note that technology should not be the only way to monitor and measure safety culture. Many aspects of safety culture is driven by unobservable phenomena such as trust, attitudes, and engagement. What would be like to comment on that? No, we totally agree, but it's just another tool, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, but what does trust and engagement look like? So trust and engagement occurs in trustworthy behaviour and engagement occurs in language. It occurs in how people talk, demeanour. It also occurs in behaviour and compliance. So it's not. I'm not proposing, as much as I'd like to, that this is the answer to all our ills. It is a tool that is useful to automate finding out how people actually behave. If that makes sense, which I think is the biggest determinant of culture.
100%. Thanks. If we have any other questions, please ask them now in the next few seconds, guys. Other than that, I'll be moving on to the last bit of our webinar for today. So I'll give you a couple of seconds for that. I do feel like this has been good, Bede. Thank you very much so far for that. This has been really good. I think it's a really been great session, and I think there's a lot of learnings, and this has got a lot of potential. So, guys, on your screen you should see seeo Bede is details as well as mine. You also see, yet again as a reminder, we do have a YouTube channel, ShopCare, where you can find all our past, previous webinars and a couple of sharing sessions as well, a couple of case studies that you can view and share as well with internally and externally. We try to provide all our content free, as wide as possible, because yet again, our main focus is connecting people to people and people to solutions, and and aiming for that safer workplace sooner. If we don't have any other questions, I'm going to give it one more opportunity just to have any last words before I close off today's webinar. Bede, any last words?
No, thank you. I know I have nothing more to say, but thank you very much for attending. I hope you found the session useful, and do get in touch with me if you'd like to have a bit of SEO in your life. We'd be more than happy to help you.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you very much, Bede, for taking the time today and sharing a bit of what you do currently for your memberships, and I'm sure this will be a prosperous future for yourself. I want to thank all the participants today. Thank you very much for coming along to today's webinar. We really appreciate taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend. Yet again, just a reminder, if you want to be a speaker in one of our future slots, let me know. And I would just want to say, watch out for the next event, guys. And until I see you the next time, have a great week and have a lovely weekend. Until then, see you. Bye.
Thank you.